Okay. All right.
Oh.
That is us.
Thank you.
Okay. I rasa nak kena refine you punya RO ni, dia too big sebab in order for you to identify GDP etc. tu, the economist pun is having a hard time to determine and identify what are the GDPs. Tapi I rasa boleh di-refine. So nanti you refine dengan your supervisors lah kot. Macam probably your first RO should be like to identify economic indicators, which is what you wanted to do in your problem statement that you said. So it should be just like that. You jangan make it very specific. Macam growth, economic growth is also difficult to calculate. So don't go that ambitious lah in that way. So nanti more or less should be
Okay.
fine.
Understand.
That's again. My
Thank you,
ambitious,
Dr.
don't be too ambitious. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you. Next one.
Okay, next. Next je lah. Next je lah. I ingat. Tak ingat dah.
Nanti saya ada nama dia.
Apa nombor 2?
Nombor
Syahira.
Syahira. Ha.
Oh. I jawab kat Sia Dr. Zairul, I dekat group 2.
Okey.
Okay, Syahira.
Boleh.
Okay.
Syahira, suara you distant sangat. Kuat sikit.
Oh, sekarang dekat tak dengan dia?
Okay, better.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and good morning to lecturers Dr. Ain'ni and Dr. Zafira and also my other classmate. I, Syahira Kamal, will present my research proposal on the topic of impact of multi-generational workforce on today's corporate real estate workplace. So, first and foremost, let us look at my research background. So, it is known to many that 2020 is the peak year where new cohort of Generation Z will start to enter the workforce, as this group of 20-something years old has just finished graduated from their study and beginning to work in the sector. So, according to Department of Statistics Malaysia, 26% of the country population is Generation Z nowadays. So, of course, the emergence of new cohort in the workplace will bring changes in the workplace as well as in the CRE management. And they need to shape a new environment in the workplace. The workplace shall evolve and take on the personality of all the generational cohorts, be it the baby boomers, Generation Y or Generation Z. Because from the employer's perspective, the term workplace, right, it means from the place where you have to go to work to the place where you want to go to work, and maybe hopefully to the place where you do your best work. So having said that, the corporate real estate must be right in a sense that it will be as much about lifestyle as it is about, it has to be about the life cycle as it is about the lifestyle. So in reality, people are getting older. As the result, the workplace is getting younger. As the labor or workforce become more multi-generational, companies need to take much and more diverse approach to thinking about the office space. Different generation usually and will have different approach to life and work. Even sometimes they have opposite preferences on how they want their workplace to be. Hence, from employee point of view, challenges they are facing is how they will have to blend and with other age group in the workplace and what new experience they will have to face in the workplace. This is basically my focus point of study. And then we proceed to the research problem. My first research problem will be each generational cohort carries its one-of-a-kind qualities to the work environment, which causes in how cohorts would work with one another. What I mean here is the diversified workforce could bring clashes or issues in the working environment. One of them is stereotyping, as we all know, and the absence of generational agreement, which may cause diminishing in the corporate real estate profitability, and of course, it will expand workers' disappointment. And then my second problem is corporate real estate organization that do not address this difficulty may encounter an increase in absenteeism and interpersonal conflict, and it will decrease interaction and inspiration in the workplace. The particular problem for this qualitative analysis was that the various age group may cause hurtful stereotypes. This will then give distinctive experience among employees, and they might have demonstrative of difference that can emerge in the work environment. And thirdly is I want to know how this distinction of age group impact on corporate real estate in respect with the current COVID-19 circumstances. By saying this is I want to know how they manage the teams when workplace is no longer needed to carry out tasks since work from home is adopted as the new working norm. And then go to my research question. Number 1 is to identify impact of multi-generational team on the workplace in Kuala Lumpur. Second is to investigate the different experiences that workers have while collaborating in multi-generational team. And lastly is to determine the impact on corporate real estate in regard with the current COVID-19 situation. And my research aim and objective will answer all my 3 questions. First is to identify impact of multi-generational team on the workplace in Kuala Lumpur. Second is to investigate the different experience that workers have while collaborating in the multi-generational team. And lastly, it will answer third question to determine the impact on corporate real estate in regard with current COVID-19 situation. In my research, I will adopt 2 methods. First is literature review. Literature review will help me to gather all the information from past researchers. And then questionnaire survey. This is qualitative method. The aim of this survey is to determine what impact emerged in the workplace when 4 cohorts of generation working as a team. Different age group will definitely have different and their own stereotypes, and their preference may be vary from other age group as they teaming up to work as a team. And then we go to my significance of research, which is very straightforward. The impact of multi-generational workforce on corporate real estate workplace in 2020 will be an important guideline to manage the workplace the way it can cater with the need of all generation age group in a team. And this is my duration and milestone for my research for this time. I think with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Ain'ni nak start dulu.
Okay, saya tak ada komen sebab Syahira discuss dengan saya. But then I have 2 observation. One is literature review is not a method, yeah. You have to do literature review for any research, so that's not part of your method. So I need to apa nak cakap? Please, everyone who's listening, literature review is not a methodology, yeah. Okay, literature review is compulsory in any research. Okay, that's number 1. And Syahira mentioned that survey is qualitative. Survey is quantitative, ya? Bukan kuali, ke saya salah dengar?
Okay.
Alright.
Yang
Okay.
saya sebut. Thank you.
I tak ada komen kot, but I think you punya RO3, perhaps the impact tu bukan not to CRE lah kot. CRE is a bit too big. Maybe impact to the workplace sahaja. So I know your topic is on CRE, tapi it seems a bit too wide. But I tak sure lah pula, Dr. Ain'ni. Because
Boleh. Maybe it's probably on corporate real estate strategy sahaja, not overall corporate real estate. So you need to refine it lah later. Okay? Okay, thank you. Next.
Okay, Doktor. Doktor nampak skrin saya tak?
Boleh.
I belum nampak lagi. Okay, dah. Nanti Faz dah ready, Faz terus present, okay?
Okay. Dah nampak slide saya? Okay. Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good morning to Dr. Ain'ni, Dr. Zafira, and also to my fellow friends. I'm Nur Fazal Kasim, and I want to present about my research proposal, which the topic is Residents' Perspective Toward Maintenance Management for Residential Strata Building During COVID-19 Pandemic. So firstly, as we know, in Malaysia, there has been a surge in high-rise buildings such as condominium and flats due to lack of more land in Malaysia. This is considered as strata properties because they are founded on a single piece of undivided property that will later be subdivided with each respective unit into separate strata names. So next, in comparison to landed property owners, the owners of these strata properties are responsible for retaining and maintaining the common development facilities, especially to the units they already own. Therefore, besides property manager for strata property, they will form a management body, which is Management Corporation, MC, and Joint Management Body, JMB. So this management body will be responsible for the proper care and maintenance of the building. So in order to ensure the smooth, proper care and maintenance of the strata building, the source funds required for such repairs is by the collection of utility charge. So that management team are expected and responsible for managing rents, monitoring building repairs, and listening to tenant complaints. As we know, earlier this year, we were robbed by the transmission of COVID-19 worldwide. So based on Baker McKenzie state that the COVID-19 virus has been declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization, WHO, locally the increase in cases of COVID-19 has culminated in the introduction of Movement Control Order MCO, and then further extend from time to time. So the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, KPKT, has released a directive to all building commissioner on the management of strata structures during the MCO era because of the most Malaysian residing in strata scheme nationwide. So this is my research problem. First one, not every property manager can successfully and professionally execute all the duties. So this then leads to a growing amount of complaint, especially regarding the maintenance and management of building and service by unsatisfied homeowners. Next is, it is the duty of tenants to pay their maintenance costs on time as well as to take care of the residential building. The lack of sense of duty and belonging by the resident will contribute to a bad living environment. Because of this MCO, some of the residents have problem to pay the maintenance fee because of some of them have no job. Maintenance fee is not really cheap. Based on my reading also, some of the tenants don't want or find it difficult to pay because it is expensive, and some of them think that the fee is not in line with the result they get. So the third one is, there is no clear guideline for property manager or residential strata building through maintenance activity for their residential area. It is imperative that extensive rules and guidelines go hand in hand with strict enforcement and monitoring to ensure their effectiveness in solving the problem of high-rise residential living. Based on website EdgeRock, on March 2020, that the property managers are calling for clearer guidelines to be drafted by the government and relevant authority on how property managers should conduct their duties during periods of crisis such as ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. So based on that, I trust that there is no official guidelines for the management to handle the maintenance activity for residential strata building, because based on my reading also, there is only a general guideline for them such as avoid or postpone gathering, limit movement within strata scheme, and etc. So there is no detailed guideline for them to handle their maintenance activity. So this is my research question. First one is, what is the level of satisfaction of residents in residential strata building towards maintenance management during this COVID-19 pandemic? Second one is, what are the problems faced by residents on maintenance management and service provided by the management team during the COVID-19 pandemic? And the last one is, how did the management team of residential strata building handle maintenance work during this COVID-19 pandemic? So this is my aim and objective. The aim is to know about the resident perspective toward the maintenance management for residential strata building during COVID-19 pandemic. My first objective is to study the level of satisfaction of residents toward the maintenance activity by property management during COVID-19 pandemic. The second objective is to determine the problems faced by residents on maintenance management performed by management team for residential strata building during COVID-19 pandemic. And the last one objective is to explore the steps to handle maintenance work by the management team of residential strata building during COVID-19 pandemic. So there are three stages in my research. First one is literature review, which is to enhance more idea, also knowledge and in-depth understanding of the topic guideline and framework. And That I use mixed method to my data collection, which is I will distribute questionnaire to all the residents at the apartment and interview the management teams such as property manager, management corporation, and joint management body. And the third stage is data analysis. So my significance of research is the first one, measure the satisfaction level of residents toward the maintenance work and service provided by the management during COVID-19 pandemic. Second one, know the problem that residents need to face in order to follow the standard operating procedure SOP during COVID-19 pandemic. The third one, it helps the management to have a clearer guideline in order to manage the maintenance work for residential strata building during pandemic or for future use. The last one is expose the residents and the management about the standard operating procedure SOP for the strata building during COVID-19 pandemic in order to prevent transmission of the virus. So this is my milestone and duration, and I will handle this research about 28 weeks. So that's all. Thank you.
Kita start dengan Dr. Ain'ni lah untuk setiap presentation.
Sorry, mencari butang. Alright, okay. Faz, I think it was a very clear presentation. You have a basis for your research, and I think it's doable. Okay lah, tu je. I don't have any question. I think it's doable.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay, Faz. I think the same thing with Dr. Ain'ni. Cuma I rasa you need to change your verbs in terms of your aims and your ROs. Nanti your supervisor, it has to be something measurable. When you say to know as your aim, it's difficult to measure. What do you mean by to know? And then macam your objective is to study. So macam we are studying, so cannot use the study, etc. Tapi tak apalah, nanti you buat lah dengan Dr. Zairul.
Okay, faham. Thank you, Dr. Zah.
Yang supervisor
Okay.
Zairul je. Cik lah. Okay,
Alright, next one.
Okay, next. Nanti Izwani dah
Because my network is bad right now. Sebab Wi-Fi you
Wi-Fi. Izwani. Wani.
Okay.
You okay tak?
Yeah.
Okay. Nanti you
Yeah,
ready?
sorry.
Yes.
Okay, tapi
Tapi?
okay, but I'm sorry for the first place sebab Wi-Fi yang sekarang tengah macam slow sikit.
Oh, it's okay.
Tak apa. You tak apa, off video je.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and good morning to panels and my fellow friends. Today, before I start my presentation, my name is Nur Izwani Betty Farudi, and I'm going to propose a research titled "Study on the Retail Space During and Post COVID-19 Pandemic: A View from Apparel Industry in Malaysia." Without further ado, I will start with my research background. The first one is, what is retail and retail space? Retail by definition is the sale of goods and services from a business to a consumer for their own use, and retail space is for these businesses to market their goods and services to consumer in a brick and mortar storefront. Example of retail space property are single tenant store, grocery store, restaurant, and shopping mall, or any other commercial property. COVID-19 pandemic outbreak happened in the end of 2019. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, COVID-19 is a disease caused by a new strain of coronavirus. The outbreak has caused numerous businesses had to close down. My focus of the research is the retailer of apparel industry. Apparel industry consists of company that design, sell clothing, footwear, and accessory. Type of product category include everything from basic such as underwear to the luxury item. For example, alligator skin handbag. Based on the statistics, This is the sales channel of apparel industry in 2020. 84% is in-store sale and another 60% is online sale. This reveals that Malaysia consumer behaviour in shopping apparel sector is in brick and mortar, even in COVID-19 pandemic. Next, based on the Sasista, this is the top 5 of apparel retail in Malaysia. The first one, Zalora, Next Direct, Uniqlo, Zara and Fashion Valley. But my focus in this research is on the local apparel retailers such as Mimpi Kita, Sometimes by Asian Designer, Pastel and Mortar. Before I go on with my presentation, this is the quote from the Diana Berland. Fashion is the part of the daily air and it changes all the time with all the event. You can even see the approaching of revolution in clothes. You can see and feel everything in clothes. Next, for the research problem, I have like 4 types of research problem. The first one is alternative. During this pandemic, there is possibility that apparel retailer has tried many alternatives to survive during this hard time. Therefore, every retailer will think their alternatives are better than other retailer in organized retail space. Number 2, for the strategy, the retail sector is slowly recovering for COVID-19 impact, but there will be a problem if they don't have strategy after this pandemic. Therefore, there will be difficult to retailer identify the action that need to be taken after this pandemic. Number 3, location decision. Other than knowing alternative and strategy, retailer in apparel industry has different preferences in location decision, especially during this pandemic. Therefore, different retailer has different preferences. Number 4, challenges in retail space. There are common challenges in retailer, which is consumer behavior, but there are different challenges in retail space among retailer. Therefore, challenges might be different in retail space. Next, for my research question is, what alternative apparel retailer in Malaysia takes during COVID-19 for their retail space? Number 2, how apparel retailer in Malaysia will overcome retail space during post-pandemic? Number 3, how retailer in apparel industry making location decision based on their preferences? And number 4, what are the challenges in retail space among apparel retailer in Malaysia? Next, for my aim of the research is to know the space preferences between during and post-pandemic COVID-19 among apparel retailer in Malaysia. With that, my objective is apparel industry strategy on the retail space during and after COVID-19 pandemic. Number 2, to know location decision among retailer and apparel industry, especially during COVID-19. And number 3 is to know retailer challenges in organized rental space during COVID-19. My method is qualitative method, is interview and observation. And my significance of the research is this research provides several strategies in organized retail space during and after COVID-19 pandemic. This research also will assist retailer in apparel industry to overcome their challenges by knowing several challenges for different retailer. This research also give retailer in apparel industry strategy to overcome their challenges in retail space if there is another pandemic. And lastly this is my timeline. In total is 28 weeks for the 8 phases. And that's all. Thank you.
Right. Ain'ni,
Yeah.
have you guys been communicating with each other? I'm wondering why everyone is using the word no. For your research objective, it's to know, 1 is to know, 2nd is to know, 3 is to know. I don't know whether you guys are doing, all of you are doing the same. Guys, you need to choose different verbs, yeah? And to know is, like Dr. Safira said just now, it's very difficult to measure. Okay, so normally you use the word like identify, to examine, to explore. Okay, discuss that with your future potential supervisor. Right. Nonetheless, another observation is that whenever you put any statistic or any data on any presentation or slides, please put the source in. Yeah, especially when you mentioned just now online versus brick and mortar. Percentage Where did you get the detail from? Yeah, because when you want to do research, you want to know the credibility and viability of the data and source of information. All right. Okay. So that's all for me.
Okay,
Laju tak
thank
aku cakap?
you.
I think my comment stands with Dr. Ain'ni lah. Basically, your research aim sebenarnya tak ada verb langsung. Tiba-tiba space preferences. So, I tak tahu you nak identify ke, you nak buat space preferences untuk dia ke. So, make sure that you have a verb stem for each of your aims and objectives. And your RQs macam banyaknya 4. Tapi tak apa. Nanti you jumpa supervisor you, 3 should be a good number lah for you. Nanti you jumpa supervisor, I think you just need to refine, but more or less ada nampak outcome research you and the significance. So that's good. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Alright,
Alright, Suhaini.
thank you.
Wahida. Is it Wahida?
Next.
Yes. Wahida.
Hello, Doctor. Doctor, can you hear me?
Boleh.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to my panel, Dr. Ain'ni and Dr. Zafira. I am Nur Wahida binti Muhammad Suhaji. Today, I would like to present about my research proposal on the topic effectiveness of government housing programs towards middle income group, a case study of Prima housing in Perak. Next. For my research background, the housing provision system is divided into 4 stages. First is housing the poor, second market reform, third slum clearance, and fourth state affordable housing. In this research, I am focusing on state affordable housing, which is government introduced this housing provision system to middle income group. Middle income group is known as M40. That is the middle 40% of the Malaysian population in terms of median income per month. Middle income group is also defined as a joint monthly income encompassing both husband and wife income. And one of the housing programs under this housing provision system is Prima. Prima is an affordable housing project established under the Prima Act 2012. It is to help Malaysians in getting their own house. It aims to plan, develop, construct and maintain high quality housing for middle income households. Next. For research problem, my first research problem is difficult to overcome the property answer in Malaysia. Prima is one of the properties of affordable housing has faced the same problem. In 2018, there are 8,581 units of Prima open for sale, but only 1,118 units managed to sell in Perak. Second, it is difficult to complete the task to build 500 Prima housing units in 2018. Other than that, there are a few Prima projects have been terminated, including in Perak. Third, it is difficult to ensure that all Prima housing units provided by the government will be purchased by the middle income group. Next. For research question, my first research question is, what are the factors that cause there are still unsold Prima unit in Perak? Second, what are the factors influencing in accomplish of Prima units? Third is the housing program established by the government achieving the goal in providing affordable housing for the middle income group. My aim for this research is to examine the effectiveness of government housing program towards middle income group. For objective, to determine the factors that cause of unsold Prima units in Perak, to determine the factors influencing in accomplish the Prima units, to determine the achievement of government housing program in providing affordable housing for the middle income group. For research methodology, basically there are 4 stages. First, literature review. Second, data collection. Third, data analysis. And fourth, conclusion and recommendation. For data collection, quantitative approach is adopted to get information. My respondent is divided to two, which is resident in Prima housing unit in Perak and the developer of Prima project. For first objective and second objective, the questionnaire are based on secondary data, and for third objective, the questionnaire based on primary data. For scope and limitation, in this research, I'm only focusing on Prima housing located in Perak and not in another state. And for significance of research, first, give benefit to home buyer, especially middle income group, to own the house. Second, give awareness to the home buyers about whether Prima housing program introduced by the government achieve the target or not. And third, give benefit to home buyers about prima housing programs. For milestone and duration, basically there are 28 weeks that I need to complete my research. That's all from me. Thank you.
Alright, Haikal. Thank you, Wahida. Right. Yang ni dia tak pakai no pula. Dia pakai determine semua. Right. Okay. Sorry. So I think it's doable, but maybe it needs some refinement with your supervisor later on. Yeah. Okay. And you need to change the ni lah kot, the research objective tu. Dia kena baiki lagi lah. Sebab at the moment it's just all determine je.
Okay.
Alright. Okay. Alright. That's all for me.
Okay. You determine. Lepas tu your next slide jadi investigate, determine. So maybe you're there but not there yet. So nanti
sorry.
refine je lah kot.
Okay.
Alright. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Wahida. It's doable, but needs refinement lah. Nanti you discuss dengan supervisor.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Next ialah Ain'ni.
Okay. Doktor dah nampak tak skrin saya?
Nampak?
Apa jadi?
When issues. Okay, when you're ready, you present JK Ain'ni.
Okay. Kejap. Dia lag pula. Okay. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning to panels, Dr. Surveyor Ainuriza Muhammad Ain'ni, Dr. Surveyor Zafira Al-Sadat Zaid and my fellows. I am Nurul Ain'ni binti Kamar Zaman. Today, I would like to present my research proposal, Urban Redevelopment Issues of Taman Ikan Emas, Developers Perspective. So let's proceed to my research background. First and foremost, what is redevelopment? Osden 2008 said redevelopment is the demolition and recreation of urban structure of the slum areas which have no chance either economical or morphological improvement. Therefore, redevelopment is to revitalize cities, provide business opportunities, promote a better life quality, improve infrastructure, services and management of public asset, as well as generate more revenue for the government. Rosley 2013 also observed that from developers' perspective, they are looking for a maximum profit. Meanwhile, from local government point of view, they want to utilize land in cities maximally and generate more business opportunities, which will increase the government tax revenue. However, the key goals of redevelopment are to revitalize city centers that have suffered from work degradation and decentralization, leisure facilities and retail. So my case study is Taman Ikan Emas, which located in Cheras. It is a tumble down old houses with poor living environment and high population density, as well as cramped condition of the Perumahan Awam Dewan Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur, include Flat Sri Melaka, Flat Sri Johor, Perumahan Awam Seri Pulau Pinang, and also Taman Ikan Emas longhouses that are seen to the need to redevelop. So throughout my reading in the internet, a few problems are discovered, such as sudden and frequent changes of development, thus making the redevelopment process delays for years. So this is the chronology redevelopment of the case study. It was since 2010 that the Taman Ikan Emas residential area that have been in poor state. On 2010, Federal Territories Ministry had proposed that the area will be redeveloped as part of Sustainable People Housing for Urban Renewal Project. It is a joint venture project between DBKL and Retro Highlands Sdn Bhd, which 50-50 owned by SP Setia and Trade-Wind Sdn Bhd. The planning development is to build quality and affordable homes, as well as public facilities and improve landscaping. However, there was no further announcement made regarding the redevelopment due to frequent changes between the DBKL itself and the developer. Hence, it delays the project to 6 years. But later then, in 2018, it was reported by the Federal Territories Ministry at that time that the substructure and piling work already begun and the project was expected to completed by December 2021. So the new house will be upgraded to 850 square feet and will be worth of market price between 28,000 to 300,000. So the redevelopment details plan on the first phase is to build 2 blocks of 1,192 units of low-cost affordable public housing. And on the right hand side, this is the company that involved in the redevelopment project. So my research problem is urban redevelopment had been the subject of intense debate for years. It is seen by proponents as an economic engine, while opponents see it as a regressive mechanism for enriching the wealthy at the expense of taxpayers and the poor. However, this cannot be seen from one side only. We must look at the various perspectives whether urban redevelopment will be benefited or not. So, various researchers have studied issues related to urban redevelopment in many countries, include Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Washington. However, based on my preliminary literature review, it is discovered that there has been little study on developers' perspective of issues related to urban redevelopment in Malaysia. There is only study on issue mainly from the residents' perspective, such as displacement of resident. Therefore, I think it is a need to study on what is the strategy that developers need to focus on if they want to conduct an urban redevelopment project, especially in Kuala Lumpur, where land is limited to avoid facing some issue in future. Continue from that, I discovered that there is no research had been done on how developer can encounter issues that may arise from the redevelopment project before, during and after the project is took off. Lastly, in Malaysia, there are few modes of privatization under land development project, said Omar 2011 in one of his articles. However, throughout my preliminary reading, I discovered that no research has been done yet on what is the most suitable or preferable approaches by developers to conduct an urban redevelopment project. Thus, research question derived from my research problem is number 1, what is strategy that developers need to focus on if they want to conduct a redevelopment project in urban areas? 2, how developers encounter issues that may arise from the redevelopment project before, during and after the project is took off. Number 3, what is the most preferable approaches by developers to conduct a redevelopment project? The aim of study is to explore issues arise in redevelopment project from the developer's perspective, and the objective are to study the strategy that developers need to focus on if they want to conduct a redevelopment project in urban areas, to explore ways to encounter issues that may arise from the redevelopment project before, during and after the project is took off, and to study the preferable approaches by developers to conduct a redevelopment project. So in this research, in this research, the approach proposed is qualitative method by using case study method. Qualitative research methodology is suitable when the researcher either investigate new field or study or intend to ascertain and theorize prominent issues. The research and methodology is divided into 3 phases. Phase 1 is literature review. Phase 2 is case study using unstructured interview and observation, where the method of data collection is made through a primary data collection by conducting an interview and observation. In this phase, an expert interview will be conducted. The interviewee must be the person who directly involved in the redevelopment project of Taman Ikan Emas and have knowledge on the research that on what I am doing. In other words, I'm using snowball concept where I interview one person and hope that he or she will recommend another people to give out their findings about the issue. So during the interview, unstructured method is applied. Unstructured interview are aimed to gather in-depth information and usually do not have planned set of questions. Lastly, on phase 3, content and data collected from the interview and observation is analysed. Therefore, the significance of study is as stated on my screen, but the most significant is to help the developer in the industry anticipate when conducting an urban redevelopment in future. My milestone and duration for my research process approximately will take around 28 weeks to complete. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, Ain'ni. Alright. Okay, interesting topic that you want to undertake. My first question, my concern is, who would be the gatekeeper of all the information that you want to find out? Faham tak maksud saya?
Siapa yang akan jadi interviewee tu
Yeah, basically. Where would you get these answers from?
Saya refer tajuk ni dekat Dr. Has. And then she said dia ada one of our alumni dalam SP Setia or Tradewinds yang boleh bantu untuk bagi information.
So why them?
Because he's the one yang involved with Taman Ikan Emas, the redevelopment project in Taman Ikan Emas.
Siapa yang involved in the development? SP Setia, is it?
SP Setia, Tradewinds.
So Tradewind is now involved in the redevelopment of that particular area.
Dia developer dia Retro Highland, tapi Retro Highland tu 50-50 basis owned by satu SP Setia and also Tradewinds Sdn Bhd. So our alumni is on the Tradewinds Sdn Bhd, which is dia involved jugalah in the redevelopment process.
So Retro Highland is a combination of SP Setia and Tradewind.
Ya, betul.
Betul. Alright, okay. Then okay lah then, if you have identified who the developers are, right? Cuma kalau lah katalah diorang ni tak kerja lagi in the future, you need to have plan B ya. Alright, okay. Okay, I have no further questions, Dr. Zaz.
I think okay lah kot since you've answered in that way in terms of getting your data. Cuma I rasa dalam memahami your whole study ni, kita ada Luna in understanding the whole process of the research that you are going to embark on this study ni, I think because your aim speaks of issues, but then your objective pretty much just says that you're going to explore the issues that will be encountered. So you see macam the first one you want to study strategy, and then you want to explore what are the issues, and then you want to study again preferable approaches. So I think this one needs refinement because it feels like I don't know where your focus are. Oh, mohon maaf. What are the focus of your study? Is it at the end of the day the outcome will be towards finding these approaches ke? Or is it towards strategy ke? Because strategy and approach pun are two different things. So probably just refining in this sense je lah kot. But your tajuk is pretty much straightforward and I think research is achievable lah sebenarnya.
Cuma RQ tu saya rasa should be on top rather than RQ2 tu, because it's issue. You need to identify the issue first and only you find out what's the strategy are.
Oh, okay.
Right, but tak apalah, just discuss back with your supervisor. But as long as you know where you're going, okay lah kot. Right, okay. Okay, Ain'ni. Thank you very much. Next one. Guys, 5 minutes ya. Tak habis kita.
Next is
Okay.
Alia.
Ada
Alia.
Yes, Alia. Sekejap
Alia ni Alia Oreo tu
Apa Oreo?
Kan tak tahu lah siapa Alia Oreo.
Salah. Alia Mio.
Oh, you salah. You Alia Mio.
Ada Alia Oreo ke?
Tak tahu lah siapa diorang yang Alia Oreo. Mana
Oreo ke Oreo?
Oreo.
Tak tahu.
Doctor, can you see my slide?
I belum nampak. Okay, dah.
Okay.
Adik, tolong chargekan mamanya phone ya, adik.
Okay, start
Boleh start?
Okay. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to panel Dr. Ain'ni and Dr. Zafira. So today, me Nurul Alia binti Hanafi want to present my research proposal titled Determining Private Valuers Perspective on Land Acquisition for Strata Scheme in Malaysia. Okay, first I would like to talk about my research background. Okay, land acquisition is the process where state authority acquires a private property. In Land Acquisition Act, stated the purposes of land acquisition, which is section 3, subsection 1A for public purpose, subsection B for any purpose beneficial to economic development of Malaysia, and subsection 3 for other purposes such as mining, residential, agriculture, commercial, industrial, recreational purpose, or any combination of such purposes. Okay, land acquisition provides solution to landowners who hesitate to surrender their land for development, and also provide solution for government to control supply of land and control development on the land. Land acquisition in Malaysia is governed by Land Acquisition Act 1960, which is provide the state government power to acquire private property, also provide the compensation to be made and other matters. However, in 2016, the Land Acquisition Act is amended to provide more information on strata scheme and underground land. Strata scheme is a property which comprises of the building or land, two parcels, accessories parcel, and common properties. Okay, next. Okay, my research is based on example for Ampang Park Shopping Complex, which is the first land acquisition that apply Land Acquisition Amendment Act 2016. Ampang Park Shopping Complex is acquired by government for purpose of building MRT station. The shopping complex was subdivided into 253 strata parcels, including 57 accessory parcels together with common properties. Okay, this is the flow of acquisition on Ampang Park. On September 2015, notice of acquisition given out. November 2015, MRT Corp announced to not demolish Ampang Park, and they introduced the new design of the shopping complex to avoid Ampang Park being demolished. But at the end, it was demolished because of safety purpose, because Ampang Park is already old at that time. Okay, next, on January 2016, judicial review applied by the tenants to challenge the power of state authority to acquire land, especially strata land under Land Acquisition Act 1960. June 2016, High Court rejected the judicial review, and then the tenants appealed again to the Court of Appeal, and that was rejected again, and then they appealed to Federal Court, and then it was rejected. And at the end, December 2017, Ampang Park was demolished. Okay, this is my research problem. Ampang Park case began when government want to acquire the land for purpose of to build a MRT station on the land. The land is acquired under Land Acquisition Act 1960. Then the case is being brought to the court, but problem arises when there is no any act mentioned about land acquisition and strata scheme. Then amendment made on Land Acquisition Act to include the amended procedure and process of land acquisition on strata scheme. Second problem is no research has done on the items that involved in the amendment made on Land Acquisition Act in 2016. And lastly, there is previous research done on awareness on government side, but no research done according to the private valuer side. There is no way to know whether private valuer is aware on amendment made on Land Acquisition Act or not. Continue with my research question. First is what are the current procedure and implementation on amendment on Land Acquisition Act 1960? Second, what are the items included in Land Acquisition Amendment Act 2016 other than strata scheme? And third is what is amendment made on Land Acquisition Act in 2016 aware by private valuers? Okay, my aim for this research is to determine private valuers' perspective toward the implementation of Land Acquisition Amendment Act 2016. Okay, the first objective is to explore the current procedure and implementation on Amendment Land Acquisition Act 1960. Second is to determine the awareness on the amendment of Land Acquisition Act 1960. And lastly, to identify the effectiveness of land acquisition implementation on strata scheme based on Land Acquisition Amendment Act 2016. Okay, this is my research methodology. I use a quantitative approach, which is using survey, and survey is conducted through online questionnaire, where I will distribute questionnaire to private valuers. And the data analysis is descriptive and statistic. Okay, scope and limitation. The scope of the decision is focused on Land Acquisition Amendment Act 2016, which more focuses on how the acquisition be made on strata scheme in Malaysia. The respondents for this research are private valuers in Malaysia. The study was restricted to opinion made by private valuers as it's only focused on private valuers' perspective only. The study is limited to a quantitative analysis by adopt data and information from survey done towards the respondents. Significance of the research. The research enables to know the current procedure of land acquisition on strata scheme from start to the end process. Enables to know whether private valuers aware of the amendment made on Land Acquisition Act and the current process of land acquisition after amendment of Land Acquisition Act 2016. This research also enables to know how the amended Land Acquisition Act applied to the strata scheme, and also amendment made are something new, and through the study, how the Act is applied to the actual cases that occur will be seen and studied in more depth. Okay, this is my milestone and duration. So as a whole, my research will took up until 28 weeks. So that's all from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alia, for that presentation. My first observation is that your research objective and your research question tak match. Dia tak match, and then it's not very clear because your research question at this research question 3, you wanted to say you want to study the effectiveness, betul? Tapi you punya problem background tadi, you just want to study the awareness, not the effectiveness. So which is which? I don't know effectiveness of what is it that you want to study. So ROU and RQU memang tak tally, but you need to relook back on that one. And your significance of research is very, very general. To know to whom. Okay, when you do research, why you need to think back, why is it important that you want to know the awareness of this private valuer? Kan? That's your main aim, kan? You want to know whether the private valuer are aware of this amendment. Why is it so important that the private valuer needs to know? Why is it important that you need to do this research? Okay, itu sepatutnya in your significant research. At the moment, it's very general. Okay, tak apa. Discuss balik with your potential supervisor. Alright.
Okay, I have the same comment as Dr. Aino. So I think kena revise balik lah kot your ROs tu because it's pretty important and your significance memang general lah. Okay, thank you Alia.
Okay, thank you Doctor.
Thanks, Wan.
Hello, doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Wait up.
Siapa itu? Saliza. Alright, Saliza.
Can you see the screen?
Saliza Sabah ke Sarawak
From Sabah, Doctor.
Sabah.
Yes, Sabah.
Kenapa tak buat study pasal Sabah Okay, tak apalah.
Susah, Doctor, because okay. Okay, start now.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to Dr. Surveyor Ainuriza Muhammad Ain'ni, Dr. Surveyor Zafira Al-Shaddad, and Dr. Surveyor Zairul Nisha Musa. My name is Nur Saliza Hidayah, and today I would like to present my research proposal. My research proposal title is an analysis of the millennials buy-to-let market in Kuala Lumpur. This is my research background. Okay, according to Melish and Roden 2008, buy-to-let is a product that makes private investment in residential property easier for the sole purpose of letting the property into the private rented housing industry. In Malaysia, buy-to-let market is when we buy a house and then rent it out to gain rental income. To some extent, millennials are one of the most generation that tend to do this type of property investment, according to Lewis et al. 2017. Besides, as the capital city of Malaysia, with estimated population of 1.73 million as of 2016, Kuala Lumpur is one of the most popular locations that being selected by the players of buy-to-let market. This is because the population, facilities, and job opportunities that being offered in Kuala Lumpur, forcing the players of buy-to-let market to play their part. Okay, next I will move to my research problem. Buy-to-let investment become more popular among the millennials in Malaysia. Buy-to-let investment are common. It is sort of loss for the real estate industry not to have an official standard or clarification system. Thus, in Malaysia, we do not have a buy-to-let policy like the other country. As an example, UK's buy-to-let policies. Plus, the relationship between political instability, which is the transfer of new government, and property investment also relate to each other, according to Mariadas 2020. Besides, the global pandemic that has started in the early 2020 has also gave an impact to the owner of the property or investor and tenants. Due to this current issue, there are some potential problems would arise, such as follow. Okay, the first one is during the global pandemic, the situation is getting worse because a lot of potential tenants did not go to work or did their main activities. Hence, most of them tend to end their tenancy agreement because there is no necessity for them to live in their property. Next is there is a possibility that the owner of the property gains lower rental income compared with capital gain because we do not have buy-to-let policy. Okay, next is the decision making by the millennials in purchasing a property to rent it out due to the increasing of property price, which is caused by the instability of Malaysian politics and the exchange of the government. Hence, it is hard for the players of buy-to-let market to make a decision. Doctor, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, the following question have directed this research to accomplish the purpose. So the first one is how does the players of buy-to-let market face the problem of void period during the 2020 global pandemic? The second one is the act or legislation related to buy-to-let market established by the government have given an enough clarification to the players? And the third one is what are the preferences being considered by the players of buy-to-let market in purchasing a property? So the aim of this study is to analyze the millennials buy-to-let market in Kuala Lumpur. In order to achieve the aim, the following objectives have been identified as follows. The first objective is to determine the method that being used by the millennials in facing the problem of void period during the 2020 global pandemic. The second one is to investigate the effectiveness of government's act or legislation regarding buy-to-let market. And the third one is to identify the preference being considered by the players of buy-to-let market in purchasing a property. And then, okay, this is my research methodology. So the methodology suggested in this study is qualitative and quantitative approach, whereas a questionnaire survey and interview are used to collect the data. So basically, there is three methodology. The literature review is not included. Okay, the first one is called the data collection. The quantitative method will be applied. This method illustrates the distribution of a survey questionnaire to collect information and obtain data on this research subject. So the next one is data analysis. In order to analyze the outcome of and estimate the significant variable, the data will be evaluated using the statistic package of social science, SPSS. And finally, the final method is making a conclusion and recommendation. The last phase of the analysis that provide a conclusion on the whole research and recommendation as well. This research focused mainly on the players of buy-to-let market, which is the property owner and tenants. And the respondent for this research are the owner of the property and the tenants, which is age 25 to 40 years old in 2021. And one of the limitation is buy-to-let market is very general in Malaysia. There is no specific policies about this property investment. Hence, it is difficult to collect the data if the study is focusing on the general topic and not provide a specific area. Next is an allocated time duration, which is only within 2 months for the data collection. The significance of this research have been identified as follows, which is this research give foundation information to buy-to-let market players, especially millennials, in investing in this property in this market. The second one is this research provide millennials with preference as the basis for choosing property in buy-to-let market. The third one is this industry also aims the buy-to-let market industry to take into account the best use of an official clarification and standard for the industry and to develop their preserved knowledge. The table shown is the duration text for every milestone, and it will took 14 weeks to finish this research, starting from next semester. This is the Gantt chart of my research activities. And this is the reference that I used to prepare this research proposal. It's not include and it doesn't include my literature review reference. Okay, I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Alright, Saliza, is this a topic that you came out on your own ke atau ada orang suggest you to do this topic?
Actually, I got idea after from my own lah, because my friends asked about this type of property, and then it gave me idea to make this as my research topic.
Alright, okay. Because my concern is, one, you are focusing on millennials, 20 to 40. At first, I thought you wanted to do the let to buy, which is more significant. That means kan millennial, I think because the main issue now is millennial tak boleh beli. Bukan millennial beli and then nak sewa. Right? So that's my first concern, because if you go back to any of the literature, I think the main concern is not about millennial buy and then to invest, but more of the issue of them not being able to afford to purchase a property, because that's the main issue now. That's one thing, yeah. And then Yeah, so I don't know if you have a statistic proving that millennials are the one who are actually buying and then investing and buying and then turning their property into investment, then that's fine. Cuma saya risau tak cukup kuat di situ. That's one. And then the second one is if you really want to go proceed with this topic, then where are you going to find this respondent? Mana you nak cari? Saliza, kat mana you nak cari all these people, these millennials who actually can afford to buy and then let? How are you going to define, how are you going to find these people? That's number 2. Okay? Right? So, mana you nak dapat responden ni? Mana you nak cari?
Yeah.
Ha?
I take note of that.
Faham tak maksud saya? Alright? Kalau let to buy tu saya faham, tapi ni buy to let. I mean memang beli untuk for investment purpose kan. Alright, okay. I think you have to go back and think about that lah. Dr. Zafira.
I pun had some confusion jugalah tadi on your study. Tapi what you can do is, I rasa, instead of focusing on the problem now, maybe you nak study something for the future. So, but you need to have a very strong foundation on studying buy to let property investment for Gen Z, millennials.
Millennial.
Yes.
So I think it's fine that sometimes your research problem is not for the now. So maybe you nak study, tapi kena check basis sikit lah on to study something that could be used for the future. I mean property investment in Malaysia macam quite normal. I rasa ada data tau yang orang Malaysia kalau subsale dia akan lagi banyak investor daripada orang yang nak beli rumah. Tak ingat lah dari siapa tapi I'm sure ada. So you can use that as a basis and then now you nak tengok apa karakteristik ke atau apa preferences millennials towards property investment in that sense lah. So in that way you can do this study. So maybe kena relook in that sense lah kot Saliza. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, take note and then you discuss dengan supervisor nanti.
Alright.
Alright, thank you.
Okay, next. Zan tak pergi makan terus tadi? Tak pergi makan terus?
I belum bagi mark lagi. I tengah jot down dalam notebook dulu. Nanti I isi.
Okay. Ain'ni pun tahu kan? Ain'ni ada Google Sheet form tu kan? Ain'ni?
Okay. Next apa? Puan Puan next lah. Puan Weici.
Yes, Doctor, can you hear me?
63 minit.
Apa yang tak ada Adam? Prosperity ala carte 1 tak ada
Sorry apa dia?
Hello, Doctor, can you hear me?
Can. Can you share now your slide?
Yes. Doctor, can see the slide?
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, good afternoon to Dr. Zaf, Dr. Ain'ni, as well as Dr. Tyrell. So today I'm going to present my research proposal with the topic of impacts of COVID-19 pandemic to student renters. Okay. So COVID-19 is a disease caused by a new trend of coronavirus. The severe of COVID-19 has caused a great panic to the whole world as it can threaten our lives and will have sequence even recovered. So Malaysia has initiated MCO, RMCO, EMCO, as well as CMCO to control our virus spreading. So under COVID-19 pandemic, students are unable to carry out a normal lectures and have to stick to online classes. So next one is the hospitality sector had experienced an impact and had a great loss during this MCO period as people are not allowed to going out to travel or to stay at the outside. Okay, so students involved in hospitality sector such as the student renters, they experience a great suffer from COVID-19 as they have to pay for the renters as even if they are staying at home. So my research problem is since the Ministry of Higher Education has announced all physical classes had to be changed to online learning until the end of semester for the session of 2020-2021. Most of the student renters have go back to their hometown instead of staying at their renting accommodation around their university. Therefore, are the student renters going to pay for the usual rental although they stay at their parents' home? Okay. Next one is online learning from home is the new norm, even since the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. So in this issue, a student renter have enough equipment in supporting themselves into online learning, such as the data or the laptop as well. So my research question is, what are the impacts of COVID-19 to student renters? Second, what are the challenges faced by student renters in COVID-19 pandemic? So the last one is, what is the assistance from government or educational institution in helping student renters during COVID-19 pandemic? So my research aim and objective is to identify the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic to student renters and to determine the challenges faced by student renters during COVID-19 pandemic. So the last one is to identify the assistance from the government or educational institution to help the student renters during COVID-19 pandemic. So my research methodology is I'm using the quantitative method, which is in survey form. I think it would be a Google form since now we are going on MCO. And my target is university student, mainly on UM. And I think UM is the most number of students who staying outside of campus. And the significance of the study is this research will contribute to students a clear image and prepare well when the same situation came again in the future. I'm not saying that the students now, I'm saying that the student in the future. And then this research also aid in providing information to the relevant parties to understand the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic and get help to student renters in a short period. So this is my milestone in the duration. I'm planning to get the total is using 28 weeks. And that's all from me. Thank you. Dr. I know you muted.
Thank you, Paul. That was a very clear presentation. Sorry. I think you have a very good basis, good problem statement. Okay lah kot. If you can get a further statistic of how many students are living outside campus, that'd be great. I think just focus on UM alone, cukup.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Well done.
Okay, next.
Next one.
Okay, dah next.
Next je tak bagi siapa.
Okay. Nanti apa?
Jamat.
Objective tu kena refine juga, tapi I think more or less we understand what the research is all about. So thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Dr. Zaf. Thank you, Dr. Zairo. Thank you, Dr. Aino.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Shirley next.
Yes.
Aino tak bagi markah terus ke?
Nanti saya isi kejap lagi. Saya tulis dekat.
Oh, ada note. Okay. Alright.
Okay. Good afternoon to Dr. Ain'ni and Dr. Zaf.
Hello, Pepe.
I'm Shirley. Today I will present my research proposal regarding the topic housing affordability among the middle-income household in Selangor. Firstly, I will introduce about the research background. Housing affordability is a relation that is made by household between the cost of housing and other expenditure. In Malaysia, housing affordability is her household pay for the installment of housing loans every month does not exceed 1/3 of their gross monthly income. And N40 can be further classified into N1 to N4. The threshold of monthly household gross income by N40 in Malaysia is between 4,650 ringgit to 10,959 ringgit. For example, the threshold of monthly household gross income by N40 in the state of Selangor are between 6,960 ringgit to 14,439 ringgit. And the housing affordability can be measured by using the median multiple approach, housing cost burden approach, and residual income approach. And for the affordability problem for the middle income house are widespread in major cities and towns in Malaysia. When many of them find it difficult to purchase a home, this is because housing policy schemes that is only focusing on the lower income household and ignoring the middle income household. Most of the middle income households are not qualified for low cost housing and cannot afford to buy even the medium cost housing. And for house price, household income, education level, type of occupation, number of working adults in household, and monthly household installment will influence the housing affordability of the middle income household. Okay, for my research problem of this research, lack of the affordable housing provided by the government to fulfill the demand of the middle income household. For example, the government has focused on the development of affordable house with an amount of 78,000 units, especially for the low-income household, according to the 10 Malaysia plan. This situation will cause many households may not be covered by the housing assistance program due to many of them stuck in the middle income track and not qualified to purchase low-cost housing and even cannot afford to buy middle-cost housing of the residential project. For the new housing loans built by the developer within the unaffordable range of the middle income household, the profit-seeking developer to build more overpriced house, which has caused the aggravation of the housing affordability of the middle income household in our country. So, this research is significant to address these problems and help to provide some insight into housing affordability of the middle income household in Selangor. For the research question, first, what is the affordability level of the middle income household in Selangor? And second is, what are the factors affecting housing affordability for the middle income household in Selangor? And what are the middle income household position towards the government policy to improve the housing affordability? The end of this research is to explore housing affordability among the middle income household, and there are three objectives included in my research proposal. First, to determine the affordability level of the middle income household in Selangor. Second is to identify the factor affecting housing affordability for the middle income household in Selangor, and last is to identify the middle income household position towards the government policy to improve the housing affordability. For the research methodology, this research consists of three phases. Literature review. First phase is literature review. All information gathered will provide an understanding definition of housing affordability and middle income household. And for the phase 2 is questionnaire survey. A set of questionnaire will be designed and distributed to the target middle income household in Selangor. And the aim of this survey is analyze the factor affecting the housing affordability for the middle income household and identify the middle income household position towards the government policies to improve housing affordability. And phase 3 is data analysis. After collation the data will be analyzed and interpreted using the aid of statistical package for social science. And for the significance of this research will provide some insight into housing affordability of the middle income household in Selangor. And this research also provide a significant perspective to the government regarding the household position toward the government policies to improve the housing affordability. Next, this research also provide an understanding for the developer regarding the affordability limits of the middle income household and provide supply based on the demand of the target group. Finally, I will plan to complete my research proposal within 28 weeks. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, Shirley, your research methodology tadi tu, kalau you nak includekan literature review, I think is the right term is research design, bukan research methodology kat situ. research design that will include research methodology lah. Kalau you nak include phase 1 tu literature review, that mean your title tu kena tukar research design, bukan research methodology. To be correct lah.
Shirley, this kind of research has been done a lot actually. So I don't know, how is your research going to be different from the one that has been done previously? Okay. Itu saja. I think you need to relook back sebab dah banyak sangat orang buat research ni. Yeah, so if you really want to do this, then you have to find actually where's the gap. Sebenarnya, how is yours is different than yang lain yang dah pernah buat. Okay?
Okay.
Alright.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
I rasa maybe what you can do is because the study dah lama. You punya tu pun 2010. That was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So right now there is too many supply of affordable housing. And data ni ada dekat NAPIC tau. So overhang has always been the gap sekarang ni for housing affordability lah. Now you tak ada, tapi sebenarnya kita ada glut in terms of affordable housing. So what you can do is instead you can still have the same topic, tapi your gap will be that affordable overhang of affordable housing. Then you cari your perception of middle income ni lah towards why are they not buying this overhang properties of affordable housing. So you move your research towards that rather than doing what you have proposed tadi lah. Boleh Shirley?
Boleh, Dr.
Rather than measuring dia punya affordability which dah ramai dah buat, like Dr. Zaz cakap tadi, sebab sekarang ni macam rumah WIP pun ada yang terlebih orang tak beli, and then all the kota-kota tu pun banyak yang orang tak beli, and then maybe kena tweak sikit lah. Alright? Okay, discuss that with your potential supervisor. Thank you, Shirley.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Kena speed up ni.
Baik, Doktor.
Siapakah?
Saya Widat.
Siti Widat.
Hello, Doktor. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to the panels, Dr. Ainuriza, Dr. Zafira and also Dr. Zairul. Today I'm going to present my proposal research on the title Assessing the Trend on the Rental Value of Residential Property around Higher Education Institution Neighbourhood, which is University of Malaya. For the research background, the establishment of the higher education institution has contributed to a rise in people's movement from beyond the city to the city at unprecedented pace. This has led to an increase in demand for rental housing within the locality. Although there are different class of people that demand accommodation within locality of higher education institution, the influence of student demand pressure is more important relative to others as the growth is expected. The inability of HIS to accommodate increasing number of students, pushing most of them to opt for alternate rental housing options in open market. For the research problem, in recent years, HIS have undergone rapid demographic growth as enrollment rises. With the increasing number of student enrollment per year, the problems identified as follows. The first research problem is there will be a problem in the availability of student accommodation is not compatible with the population growth. The second research problem is there is a possibility of the massive growth of the HIS to affect on the housing market growth in an area. The third research problem is there will be an issue where HIS create competition in the housing market and put pressure on limited housing supply in an area. The landlord and investor exploit this situation and the rent may be increases. With limited income sources and having to deal with the rising rentals of private rental off campus, the off-campus students scrimp on the housing rental expenses by living with multiple occupation to reduce the rental paid per person. Hence, this research is significant to address this issue and provide some insight into the impacts of the higher education institution toward the rental market value within the neighborhood around University of Malaya. For the research question, What was the rental value trends of the residential property proximate to the University of Malaya from 2010 to 2020? RQ2, what are the factors that influence the rental value of residential property within University of Malaya neighborhood? And the third RQ is what are the relationship between student of campus population and the rental value around the neighborhood? The research aim is to evaluate the impacts of the higher education institution toward the trends of residential rental value around the neighborhood. The research objective is to examine the rental value trends of residential property proximate to the University of Malaya, to determine the factors that influence the rental value of residential properties within University of Malaya neighborhood, and to identify the relationship between student of campus population and the rental value around the neighborhood. For the research methodology, I'm using quantitative method. The first one is literature review that help to give in-depth graphs and knowledge, also giving more ideas on the topic, which is related to the trends of the housing rental market around the higher education institution. Phase 2 is question survey. This survey is significant to finding out the perceptions of the landlord on the trends of the housing and the factors influence the rental value around University of Malaya. Phase 3 is development of conceptual framework. The development of this framework will be constructed in order to see the linkage between the variables that have been used in the terms of factors which affect the attractiveness of the housing market around University of Malaya. And the data analysis, the data collected were analyzed using SPSS, both descriptive statistical tools and inferential statistical tools were used. For the significance of the research to the higher education institution, this finding of the study will be useful for the student affairs divisions of higher education institution to provide some insight on the real factors of housing rental market movement in the neighborhood. It is therefore recommended that the higher education institution should be encouraged to make a clear and definite statement concerning the provision of on-campus accommodation. So significance of research to the government, the finding could offer a direction for the policymaker and it could help the government make more accurate and suitable decision on the location of higher education and urban development. Also, the finding highlight the likely impacts of the higher education institution on the local rental market should be integral to the establishment and expansion plans of the every higher institution. So the significance of the research to the real estate player, the finding also indicate how real estate players such as developer and investor can assist in determining the economic impact and trends of the housing market around his. Besides, the study will be useful for the investor, housing property agent and future buyer to understand the factors of housing attractiveness through the student housing market. Significance of research to the local communities, the finding could demonstrate the economic importance and information about the housing investment for local people and community around his. And the finding also will provide some insight on to what extent the impact of studentification around the locality could affect the rental value and the price of residential properties. So this is the milestone and duration. This research will be took 28 weeks to be conducted, and this is the Ganjar of research activities. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Widat. Dr. Zairul nak komen?
Okay, I nampak on your research methodology tadi, you ada develop your conceptual framework tu. Maknanya itu, I think that's you need kena omit lah. Benda tu tak ada sebenarnya. You tak perlu develop any conceptual framework. Kau nak buat apa masa literature review part. Bukannya at the phase 4 tu.
Alright,
And then you punya objective pun tak ada pun nak develop any framework. So kena omit that one.
Ni framework ni PhD Widat, tak payah.
Okay,
don't burden yourself because you only have like 28 weeks from now 28 minggu from today. So you try to limit framework ni untuk PhD boleh. Okay, saya rasa okay kot tapi need refinement lah nanti discuss dengan supervisor. I think fine with me.
Alright, okay. Thank you, Dr.
Dr. Zaf?
Mute Zaf.
Sorry. More or less, I think it's okay. Cuma outcome dia macam quite confused tadi bila cakap significance dia ialah towards government. So dalam kepala I, adakah you sekarang nak recommend that university should be involved with the rental market dekat luar or something like that? So maybe benda tu you kena memperhalusi juga kot because I don't think that's what you wanted to do kot. Kan? That's a bit too big lah of a scope for you. Satu lagi, I perasan this is not just Widat. Okay, most of you guys, your third objective is to identify. Identify is normally the first thing that you do. When you want to determine is relationship. Okay? Macam Widat tadi, identify relationship. Actually, you tak nak identify relationship dah. You dah nak determine dah apa relationship dia. Which is the outcome of your study lah sepatutnya. But more or less, I think okay kot. Still kena ada refinement tapi nanti buat dengan supervisor lah kot. Alright, thank you.
Alright, thank you, Doctor.
Tak bangun-bangun dari tadi. Daripada pukul 9.
Okay, Susan.
Yes, good morning, Doctor.
Morning.
Morning, afternoon already.
Afternoon, Doctor.
Susan kat country mana ni?
Doctor, can you see my slide?
Can.
You dekat
Alright.
Iran ke pagi?
Alright, good afternoon to Dr. Zairul, Dr. Ain'ni, and also Dr. Zaf. And today I would like to present about my research proposal, which is with the title Brownfield Redevelopment, Public's Perception. So first of all, based on the United Nations estimation in 2019, the population of Malaysia is 31.95 million in 2019, and it is expected to grow to 36.1 million in 2030. So based on the growing population size, this also indicates that there are increasing demand towards commercial, residential, infrastructure, and amenities development. So our government has started to focus on brownfield redevelopment, especially in major urban areas such as Kuala Lumpur, Johor Bahru, and also Georgetown. And this is to limit the growth boundary and also the urban sprawls. It is also found that brownfield redevelopment has been mentioned in several government publications, such as the National Urbanization Policy 2 and the Local Plan of Johor Bahru and Kulai District. However, the successfulness of brownfield is often related to economic aspect, but not the public's perception. So based on my preliminary research, I found that around the world, there are various researches regarding the brownfield redevelopment in different aspects has been done. For example, in terms of the definition of brownfield, sustainability of the redevelopment, problems of brownfield, benefits of redevelopment, and also the public's perspective and so on. But these researches, to a certain extent, is inapplicable in Malaysia due to the difference in terms of the planning and development rules, and also the difference in the socio-economic background between Malaysia and those countries. In Malaysia, there's still lack of research on brownfield redevelopment, especially in terms of the public's perception. Besides, it is also found that public perception is seldom be considered during the redevelopment process. And therefore, there are always different expectations from different stakeholders, such as the developers, government, and public. Based on the research, preliminary research, it is found that the developers always expect profits from the redevelopment, government expect economic growth, whereas the public expect life quality improvement. So if the public perception is not being considered in the redevelopment process, the low acceptability of public will in turn result in the locally unwanted land use. And there's a few failure of brownfield redevelopment in Johor Bahru. For example, this is the MB City Mall. It is planned to be redeveloped. However, up to now, it is still an abandoned site. And this is Danga City Mall. And previously, it is a mall known as Plaza Best World. It is redeveloped into Danga City Mall. However, it is abandoned again up to now. And the next one is the Lot 1 JB Waterfront City. Is another site that stopped operation since 2003 and left abandoned till 2020. And Paradigm Mall is the only mall which has been successfully redeveloped from the previous abandoned site. So based on the problem statement, the research question I have formulated include: what is the importance of public perception to the brownfield redevelopment? Second, what is the type of redevelopment preferred by the public? And lastly, what is the level of public satisfaction towards the redevelopment? And the aims and objective of this research include to examine the importance of public perception in brownfield redevelopment, and second, to identify the preferred type of brownfield redevelopment by the public, and third, to identify the level of public satisfaction towards the redevelopment. And this research has been planned to be conducted into 3 different stages. First one is the literature review, followed by questionnaire survey and data analysis. For research question 1, literature review has been conducted to have greater and deeper understanding on this topic, and journal articles, data booklet, book sections, government publications such as guidelines, development policy, local plan, and so on are be reviewed. For research question 2 and 3, it is planned that questionnaire survey will be conducted, and it will be an online survey which is through the Google form, and the targeted population will be residents aged 18 years old and older in Johor Bahru district. And all of this data will be analyzed using SPSS and visualized using tables, charts, and also graphs. And this research is significant because most of the previous studies has measured the brownfield redevelopment successfulness in terms of economic aspect. And this research is expected to provide valuable insights towards the opinion of public in brownfield redevelopment. So through this, we can determine if current redevelopment meets the public's expectation, and these insights of public perception is expected to act as a foundation for future brownfield redevelopment. Therefore, the future brownfield redevelopment will be in tandem with public desires, and it is also able to minimize the risk of unwanted outcome from the brownfield redevelopment. That's all from me. Last but not least, this is the milestone and durations of the dissertation, and it is planned that this dissertation will be completed within the duration of 28 weeks. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I think orang lain nak komen because I dah discuss juga lah something with Susan, tapi I think you get my previous comment kan yang the identify tu.
Yes.
So nanti you relook into that je lah.
So nampak the direction is clear. Cuma in term of nanti you punya respondents tu nanti, how you going to identify nanti you discuss dengan you punya potential supervisor lah nanti ya.
Alright, Doctor.
I have no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Doctor. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, now dah.
How are you, Basan?
I'm very good, Doctor. Oh no, oh, what? Come on, don't do that.
In the reload file.
Yeah, sorry, Doctor.
Okay.
A very good morning to the panelists, Dr. Zafira, Dr. Ain'ni, and Dr. Zairo. Today, my presentation, my research proposal presentation, is regarding the outlook for high-rise housing and the perception of young people. Right. So, first of all, the research background. In urban areas, 27.5% of Sydney, 84% of Singapore, and a little over 95% of Hong Kong currently reside in high-rise housing. So, Kuala Lumpur, the capital city of Malaysia, has seen a rapid pace of urbanization. Has seen a rapid pace of urbanization over the past few decades, and thus the growing population has resulted in an increase in need for high density housing or high-rise housing. So as we can see, in terms of the newly launched residential buildings between 2015 and 2019, high-rise housing is the second highest. However, it's the second lowest in terms of percentage sold. So in terms of research background, the current living arrangement of young people. The majority of young people currently reside in high-rise residential buildings, in Kuala Lumpur at least, Kuala Lumpur and Subang Jaya of Selangor, and the majority of young people are renters rather than homeowners. However, despite this, younger people have a preference for landed housing rather than high-rise housing. Right, so the research problem, despite the increase in supply of high-rise housing, the majority of young people currently prefer to stay in landed housing. Despite the obvious preference for younger people to stay in landed housing, the majority of them currently reside in high-rise housing. The level of satisfaction of younger people currently residing in high-rise housing is currently unknown. And if the level of high-rise housing, if the supply of high-rise housing continuously grows in the future, the level of demand that can be expected for the properties is currently unknown. So this is in terms of economic conditions changing, such as income and income levels and whatnot, but we don't know the preference level of younger people. Right. So the research questions are young people currently satisfied with their living conditions and experience within the high-rise housing? What are the factors that lead to young people choosing high-rise housing as their preferred choice of home? And why do young people prefer staying in landed housing as opposed to high-rise housing? Okay, next up. Oops. So next up, the research methodology. The research aim and objectives. For the research aim and objective, the main aim of this research is to evaluate the future outlook of high-rise housing and the factors surrounding the young people's preference or lack thereof in choosing high-rise housing as their choice of home. So the objectives are to evaluate if young people are satisfied with their living condition and experience within the high-rise residential building, to identify the factors that lead young people to choose high-rise housing as their preferred choice of housing, and to identify why young people currently prefer staying in landed housing as opposed to high-rise housing. So for the research methodology, we will have both qualitative and quantitative. For the quantitative, I'll be applying this to answer research question number 1 and 2, where survey forms will be distributed to young people currently residing in high-rise residential buildings in Kuala Lumpur. And for qualitative, it will be for answering research question number 3, where online interviews will be conducted among young people residing within Kuala Lumpur. So for the significance of the research, it's more to developers and planners to ensure that future supply of high-rise housing can meet the preferences of young people. And that is all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Basan. Basan, are you planning to target renters or buyers, owners or tenant?
I think it can be both because it's more regarding their preferences and their experiences within high-rise housing.
Rasanya macam kena choose kot. If you want to go for
you ni kena
tenant saja,
define you punya young apa tadi? Young buyers you what tadi?
young people.
Young people tu tak you kena define siapa young people ni.
What do you mean by young people?
I have two options, either 23 to 40 or 20 to 40.
Why?
Yang dah beli rumah atau yang menyewa?
I guess it should be menyewa lah, Doktor.
Okay, tak apa. That's something that
I
you
was
need
planning
to think about, and the age bracket tu you kena identify. Tak boleh main simply choose you got to have justification why you choose a certain age bracket. Alright?
Alright.
Okay. That's all for me. Alright.
And then Wasan you punya objektif tu kena refine jugalah sikit nanti you punya supervisor. Take note on that Okay.
Pasan, I have no further comment. My comments are the same as Dr. Zairo and Dr. Ainurita. Alright. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Ke-14.
Basan, can you stop sharing? Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes.
I need Shirley to help me share screen because I'm having some problems with my Microsoft Teams.
All right.
No problem.
Okay, good afternoon, Dr. Zai, Dr. Zairu, Dr. Aino, and Dr. Zaf. I'm Yo Kayun. Today, I'm here to give a presentation on peer-to-peer accommodations issues in strata scheme. Next slide. So I'm going to take a look at research background. Firstly, what does P2P accommodation means? According to Ho Pei and others, P2P accommodation is defined as spaces where peer providers rent a private area or an entire property in the short-term period to the renters, who are also known as the peer end user. Moreover, Renuka stated that there are over 4.5 million rental listings as of March 2018 in 191 countries for the digital platform at the vanguard of the P2P accommodations economy. And Airbnb is a conspicuous example in the P2P accommodation market. Some other examples are Home Exchange, Home Away, Flipkey, and Couchsurfing. And P2P accommodation platform provides more variables options for accommodations than hotels. So actually, phenomenon of P2P accommodation will cause a huge impact on hotel revenue. Next slide. But in this research, we are not comparing P2P accommodation to the hotel, but the research only focused on the P2P accommodations issues in strata schemes. So you can see the first one here. As we know that there's increasing numbers of strata schemes in Malaysia, so some owners will take P2P accommodations as their new method of funding to their business. So according to the third schedule of strata maintenance and management regulations by the strata properties, there are definite prohibitions imposed on the proprietor of the parcels, but so far there's no any other provisions restricting on or prohibiting P2P accommodations done by the owner. So a lot of issues and complaints are brought up by the strata residents, and yet there is no efficient action taken in regulating the problems globally. Next slide. So moving on to the research problems, in recent years, accommodations rental activities through P2P platforms has experienced exponential growth. Its staggering growth calls into question whether the P2P accommodation business need to be monitored through regulation or not. Particularly, most of the residents who live in strata communities do not wish the parcel owners to become the host of P2P accommodation. This is due to the issues caused by the P2P accommodations in strata buildings, such as security problem, life quality of neighborhood, violations of tax law and zoning rules, and high wear and tear of common facilities. So to make the matter worse, the strata laws in Malaysia are still unable to restrict the owner from doing so. Next slide. So regarding to my research, there are three questions include what are the issues of P2P accommodations in strata scheme? And the second one, what are the factors that drive the issue to take place in strata scheme? And the third one, what are the ways for joint management body, JMB, or management committee, MC, to overcome the issues? Next slide. So the main aim of this research is to investigate the phenomena in relation to the P2P accommodation in strata scheme. And in order to achieve my aim, there are three objectives. Includes the first one, to determine the issues arising from P2P accommodation in strata scheme. And the second one, to identify the factors that drive the issues to take place in strata scheme. And the third one is to identify the ways that taken by JMB or MC to overcome the issues. Next slide. So my research design consists of 4 phases to identify, select, process, and analyze information about my topic. So the phase 1 about the literature review. So through this phase, it is possible to identify the boundary of knowledge within the area of my study. For instance, literature reviews give an idea to me on the definition of P2P accommodation. Moreover, literature review also help me to identify the factors that drive the issues to take place in strata scheme. So phase 2 about the structure interview. So the case study I plan to do is at Verve Suites Mont Kiara. So 5 people from the JMB or MC will be selected for the interview in order to consult their opinions regarding the issues of P2P accommodations in the Verve Suites Mont Kiara. And the phase 3 about the questionnaire survey. So the questionnaire survey is also planned carried out at Verve Suites Mont Kiara, the same property, but this time the target respondents are among the residents. Through the survey, I may know about the perceptions of residents regarding the issues of P2P accommodations and its factor, as well as the residents' views about the ways to solve the issue. So the last phase, phase 4, about the content analysis and the data analysis. I will do the content analysis for my phase 2 interview part and the data analysis for my phase 3 questionnaire survey. So for the content analysis, I will transform a large amount of text into highly organized and concise summaries of key results, which is using the coding method. And for the data analysis, after obtaining the data through the Google survey, the data attained can be analyzed using the SPSS windows. So next slide. So hence my significance of this research includes this research is So this research is imperative in helping the real estate industry players to understand about the P2P accommodation by providing a clear definition and its examples. And the second one, the research provides a foundation information that can be used to determine the issues arising from P2P accommodation in strata scheme. And the third one, the research also gives the real estate industry to identify the factors that drive the issues to take place in strata scheme. And last but not least, this research provides a ways that can be taken by JMB or MC to overcome the issues. Next slide. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Kayun?
Yes, Dr. Ain'ni.
All right, okay. I think you have a very clear problem statement sebenarnya. I think you know what you're doing. Okay lah kot, nanti you need to refine with your supervisor, future supervisor. Cuma two observation. Yeah. One is try not to underline everything on the slides. That is just very annoying.
Okay.
Don't
Okay.
underline unless necessary. Okay. And the other one is content analysis is not the way to analyze data from interviews. Okay. Content analysis itself is a method, right? So nanti if you really want to do interviews later on, there are several ways of doing analysis for qualitative data, thematic analysis and whatnot, but not content analysis. Okay, right? Be careful of the terms that you use. All right, that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ain'ni.
Okay, I have no other further comments. The same as Dr. Ain'ni. So basically, I think you know what you want to do. I think it's a good research. So nanti refine lagi lah kot dengan supervisor. Thank you, Kayun.
All right,
Thank you,
interesting.
Doctor.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Hi,
Hello, siapa itu?
I'm Ming Kai. So I'm
Ming
up
Kai.
for next.
Mingkai.
Hi,
Okay,
can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so a very good afternoon. I bid to Dr. Zairu, Dr. Ain'ni, and Dr. Zaf. So my research title today is about factors affecting purchasing decision of customers in buying residential property at Klang Valley, Malaysia.
Tak ada video tak nampak muka dah.
Oh,
Dah lupa rupa Mingkai macam mana.
mau buka. Okay, boleh. Dah.
I just nak make sure Mingkai yang cakap, bukan orang lain.
Hi.
Hi Mingkai.
Hi.
Just joking Mingkai, okay.
It's okay.
Right.
Okay.
Apa kan?
Proceed. Proceed to next slide. Okay, so first of all, I will start with my resource breakdown first lah. So my definition for two specific terms in the title is, first one is purchase decision. So purchase decision is one of the actions that carry out by customer when they overcome with two or more options in buying a goods or service. So second is residential property lah, which is defined as any unit or building that zone and purpose as living spaces. Okay, so continue with my resource background. This is the data which I adopted from DOSM, Department of Statistics Malaysia lah. This is about population. So first of all, the things that I want to highlight about population is Malaysia population in 2020 is estimated at 32.7 million. Right, so growth rate is recorded at 0.4 lah, which is compared to 2019. Okay, so here is a hypothesis. So actually, since like our population is going up every year, so the demand of residential property will be increased with the population increase because more people more demanding of house ma. So this is my hypothesis before next data. So next data is talk about overhang status in Malaysia. So actually in 2020, the value of overhang status increased from 40 billion to 50.17 billion. It is a very big gap here. So for residential unit, actually in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor recorded 15.2 and 10.1% respectively from 19.99 billion. So for commercial unit, which is focusing on service apartment so service apartment recorded 18.3% from 21.33 billion figure. So actually this is in contrast with the growing population, but the overhang status of the property is still ongoing despite the ongoing population. So yeah, this is my factor raised after I do the literature review. Okay, so first of all is financial factor. They will consider for financial factor especially about the loan margin and down payment. So second is structural factor, which is the customers tends to consider the exterior appearance, quality, functionality, and condition of the residential property. Third one is demographical. So they will choose the property based on their age, gender, education level, marital status, number of people, and household income. So fourth is location, which is availability of transportation and public facilities. Another one is neighborhood, which is talk about crime rate, air quality, greenery, population, quietness, safety, security, and traffic condition. So comes to my research problem. So first of my research problem is salary or income of an individual doesn't actually make them afford to buy their preferred property, which is usually near to their working spaces, near to their near to public transport, near to shopping mall which is in a good location. So second is new residential property that develop are not in compliance with the taste of the potential customer, especially in terms of the construction method, in terms of the price, in terms of the location. So third one is insufficient in terms of property knowledge. There is a lot of people in nowadays, they are first home buyer, but actually they are very insufficient in terms of property knowledge. They know less thing about property. So they tend to consult a lot of people, which are usually less same with them, less property knowledge. So actually they got all kind of opinion from all kind of people. So they makes them so confused, so slow in doing the purchasing decision. So my research question is, what initiative that government or bank can implement to help these home buyers in securing a loan when they are trying to buy a property? So second,
tak apa, terus.
Okay. So second one is, what are the factors that affect the purchasing decision of customer when they are buying a residential property? So third one is, where does the customer get their information and advices on the property market when doing their purchasing decision? So my aim and objective is to propose a suitable policy for government or bank to help home buyer to secure the loan from financial institution. So second is to identify the factor that affecting purchasing decision when customers are buying a residential property. Third one, to explore the sources of information the customer get regarding the housing market when they're doing their investigation on housing market and consideration for the purchasing. So my research methodology, first I divided into 4 phases. So first phase is about literature review. So this one I will go through all kind of research conducted by other researchers to understand on definition on purchasing decision and the residential property, the definition of these two things, and then raise the issue, the factors that usually considered by the customer when they are doing their purchasing decision. So second is research objective. After I review the literature review, I will come up with research objective which identify the factor that affecting purchasing decision when customers are buying a residential property. Third one is questionnaire survey. Which is quantitative survey. So evaluate the level of importance of each factor that I raised in research background just now that affect the purchasing decision of customers when they are buying residential property. So last but not least, analysis of collected data from questionnaire. So data collected from this questionnaire are analyzed using the aid of SPSS windows which indicate the relevance of each factors to the purchasing decision of the residential property. So actually, the significance of my research is to help the new buyers or first home buyer in referring what factor they should take into consideration when they are buying the property. So second, aid the developer in addressing the demand of the market to acknowledge what actually their potential buyer are thinking, so they can do the improvement on their upcoming project or their existing project. So alert the government in addressing the issue and cause of increasing of overhang properties in Malaysia. So for one is reference to the real estate consultancy when they are closing a deal or consulting their client, which provide the demanded product to their client. So reference for bank and financial institution that the reason why the customer cannot secure a loan from them and act as a guide for them to implement new promotion packages, maybe lower rates, longer, the loan period. So last but not least, we'll talk about my milestone and duration. So first is literature review, which is 6 weeks. Second is data collection, which is 6 weeks. And third one, data analysis, which with 6 weeks. Research and finding 5 weeks. Writing a paper 4 weeks. And submit publication is for 1 week. So that's all from my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mingkai. Dr. Zairul nak komen dulu?
Okay. Okay, your punya what you study is okay. Cuma when you developing your research objecting research question tu, I think kena refine sikit kot. And then the word verb yang you guna tu macam heavy sangat to evaluate tu apa tadi? Evaluate ke apa you punya objective tadi? Macam to propose policy. That is too heavy, I think. Kan Dr. Ain'ni?
Okay, I faham. Too much for me to do already. Yeah.
So make it simpler that you can measure that your objective tu nanti.
Okay.
At the moment it looks very broad lah, Mingkai. Kena refine lagi kot. It looks very broad. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I will.
Very broad. Your research problem also very broad. It's very broad. Okay.
No problem.
I think kena tengok balik kot. Who will be your target respondent?
Actually, I am not. My respondent. Yeah. Respondent. Actually, I got some context lah with the customer in the property market. So yeah, I will distribute the questionnaire to them. I think will be.
Who is this customer?
Actually, I've been involving in real estate marketing before this. So yeah, I got some contact lah. So.
Okay, but ni tak sama tau. You ada contact ke tak ada contact. When you do research, you kena define you punya population. Siapa is actually the gatekeeper to your research ni. Alright? Okay, so who will be your target respondent again?
Seems like
anyone, is it? All
anyone, by anyone. Yeah, by anyone.
Itu yang tak boleh tu.
Okay,
you cannot survey anyone.
I know. Okay, so then I will refine it more specific, like maybe M40, T20.
Okay.
This is after this lah. I mean.
Itu maksud saya. It is at the moment it's very broad. You have not specified any target group ke apa ke kan? Yeah. Alright. Yeah. Okay. Need to relook back, right? Okay. Thank you, Mingkai.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So far so good.
16.
Saya nak pergi tengok grup sebelah pula. Apa ceritanya.
Okay, cepat. Lagi 3. Come on.
Mingkai,
guys.
Mingkai, I ada suggestion lah untuk you sebenarnya.
Boleh, like.
What you can do is, but I think your objective tu dah cun lah juga on macam mana nak decide apa. You nak tengok macam how orang decide to beli rumah or something like that kan?
Ya, betul.
So I think you focus on that pun dah okay juga. So you cari like satu target group macam Dr. Ain'ni cakap, and then you focus on what should they know or apa yang sekarang ni diorang tahu apa. So apa benda yang the things that they should buy a house, maybe housing process secara ke something like that lah kot.
Okay, maybe just focus on buying process saja.
Buying process.
The buying process. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Kalau nak fokus on agent pun boleh sebenarnya.
Boleh juga.
Dia punya perception agent jarang. Selalu orang tanya on buyers, jarang because you have been kan tanya what would be dia punya experience dealing with agents ke apa ke, that would be interesting.
Agent macam best saja because my colleague I can get it from my colleague.
You tanya your
you ada contact kan, senang.
Right, okay, tak apa. Need further refinement, dapat think about it. Alright, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Amira.
Okay, Amira. Sorry. Okay, teruskan.
15 down, 3 to go.
Ni yang keberapa? Sikit lagi.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all lecturers and my fellow friends. So today I'm going
Amira, boleh on video tak Amira? Do you have problem tak?
Okay. Nampak tak? Tak boleh.
Tadi Dr. Hasniati minta you all test you punya webcam. Nanti habis the last student, boleh tak try everyone to on your webcam? Ada sesiapa yang ada have issues with webcam tak?
Doktor tak boleh buka.
Anyone?
Ada isu.
Anyone? Siapa yang ada masalah buka webcam? Anyone?
Dekat Microsoft je tak boleh.
Dekat Microsoft je tak boleh. Maksudnya apps lain boleh, tak ada masalah.
Boleh.
Oh, maksudnya dekat Teams je lah dia jadi problem.
Oh, tak tekan.
Izwani tadi bukan problem sebab wifi ke?
Tak sure lah.
Tadi dia cakap tadi sebab wifi tu kan dia slow.
My problem
Kalau
is
saya
wifi
problem
only. Kamera boleh je.
Okay.
Hello? Kalau saya problem buka slide present, lepas tu buka cam, nanti dia problem, dia lag.
Alright, okay. Okay, Amira, silakan. Be as brief as possible.
Alright. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all lecturers and my fellow friends. So today I'm going to present my research proposal with the title that I've been chosen, Determining the Outsourcing Hotel Services in Klang Valley. So for my research background, outsource is the completion or partial transformation of organizational activity to an external vendor. We recognize outsourcing as the contractual arrangement between the customer and the service provider, whereby the latter undertakes to deliver the service to the first. So actually, there's a lot of benefits that hotel can get from outsourcing their services. One of them is increasing their flexibility, improving the quality, and moreover, so hotels actually must survive in the face of increased competition by improving quality and customer loyalty in the hotel industry. Outsourcing obviously has taken on an important role. So based on the there is actually a certain problems that rise. First is to survive, hotels need to think strategically about raising productivity, improving the bottom line, and satisfying hotel guests. Unfortunately, there is a serious lack of expertise among hotel managers. And next is the unforeseen COVID-19 pandemic has breaking out in Asia. So hotel management focus more every possible short-term cost-saving strategy immediately. Thus, it is expected increasing demands for outsourcing will urge all parties involved in outsourcing activities in the future. Although outsourcing is gradually becoming one of the business strategies adopted by hotels in the Klang Valley, but there was no documentation on the issue for the types of outsourced services that are normally used in that area. Next is cost is one of the most important outsourcing motivations, but there was a little research done to support this statement. And next is certain services require special competencies, which most of them are too costly for hotel to permanently retain. Hence, outsourcing is often the best practice. And the last one, although outsourcing is pursued by many organizations, one of the main difficulty is to involve in the decision is what to outsource. So based on the research problem, there's 3 questions that I stated. First question is what types of outsourced services that are normally used by 3 to 5 star hotels in the Klang Valley. Second question is what the reason to outsourcing the services, and the last question is which of the hotel services that are critically outsourced. So the aim of this research is to explore the outsourcing services of 3 to 5 star hotels in the Klang Valley. So in order to achieve the aim, there's 3 objectives that I have identified. The first objective is to investigate the types of outsourced services that are normally used by 3 to 5 star hotels in the Klang Valley. Second objective is to identify the reason to outsourcing the services. And the third objective is to identify the hotel services that are critically outsourced. So for my research methodology, I use quantitative method, and there's 3 phases. for this research. Phase 1 is literature reviews. It helps me to give in-depth grasp and knowledge and giving more ideas on the research topic which related to outsourcing services in hotel industry. Phase 2 is questionnaire survey. This survey is significant in finding out the types of outsourced services that are normally used by 3 to 5 star hotels in the Klang Valley. Also collected information on reasons that may influence outsourcing decision by hotel manager. And the last phase is data analysis. So all data will be collected and will be analyzed by SPSS. For significance of the research, this research will assist the hotel industry player with clear reference toward the types of outsourced services that are normally used by hotels in Malaysia. And next is this research also provide the reasons to outsourcing the services in the hotel industry. Other than that, it also gives the information based on the hotel services that are critically outsourced, and it also offers basic information to determine the desire of the hotel. So this is my milestone and duration, which total 38 weeks to complete the research. And I think that's all from me.
Okay, this my private topic ni. Amira, can you hear me? Okay. Amira, kenapa nak specify 3 to 5 star hotel?
Sebab usually untuk outsourcing ni 1 star dengan 2 star diorang kebanyakan tak ada buat outsource. So saya banyak research yang buat pasal 3 to 5 star untuk outsourcing.
Oh. So kalau you buat 3 and 5 star, so sampling you nanti you nak buat macam mana? Nak make it constant? Kenapa tak fokus pada 5 star je ke, 3 star je ke? Kenapa nak? Otherwise you nak tengok there's a different type of outsourcing that has been outsourced by different hotel. Type of star hotel tu.
Agree. Fokus satu je.
Make it constant. Tak payah nanti you nak fikir pasal 3 star, 4 star and 5 star.
Okay.
So you tengok population 5 star dekat Klang Valley berapa, and then you ambil sampling based on the population tu.
I would suggest that you go with hotel ni senang nak approach kot. Yang mana yang senang sebenarnya nak approach, ya? Okay, tak apa. Alright. Okay. No more question from me.
No question from me juga. Thank you.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you, Amira.
Okay, now baru nak pergi tengok sebelah.
17
apa buat? Lee Wen Yu. Lee Wen Yu. Luna from now dekat mana? Kat sini ke kat China?
Lama je dia cakap Melayu.
Lupa lah pula.
Luna can understand.
Where are you? Are you in Malaysia currently?
Yeah, in Malaysia.
Oh, okay. In campus.
Not in campus.
Okay.
Luna can understand what Dr. Zairo said just now, right?
Okay, so good afternoon, Dr. Zairo, Dr. Ain'ni, and Dr. Zhao. I'm Li Wenyu. Today I'm going to give a presentation on factors influencing first-time home buyers' preferences for residential property in Kuala Lumpur. I will start with my research background. Data from property market reports show that most of the following housing transactions came from prices between 100,000 ringgit and 250,000 ringgit. The market target of this price range is individuals or families that have been classified to first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers are important in the real estate market because they indirectly play a role in regulating housing policies and further promoting the home ownership rate. Young adults are the potential group that drives the trend of the housing market soon. However, current economic and social conditions have led to a decline in home ownership among young people, which is related to their housing preferences. I will proceed to the research problems. Over the past 30 years, Malaysia's housing policies and programs have fought to ensure adequate housing for all people. As both public and private housing providers have fought to examine factors that account for housing satisfaction or dissatisfaction among homeowners. There are many homes that developers launched remain unsold because the developers failing to provide home buyers with units that meet their preferences and needs. Maybe from the developer's point of view, a house with all the necessary characteristics may be enough to attract a buyer. But from a buyer's point of view, it might not be so, because everyone has different concept of the ideal house. The living trend also changed as the children no longer stayed with their family, moving out living in different houses. Young adults married with few kids to ensure that they can cater all the needs of their children. Before making the purchase decision, the first-time home buyers often have a higher system for the housing design and the housing attributes. Regarding my research, there are 3 questions. First, what is the preference of first-time home buyers for residential property in Kuala Lumpur? Second, what are the demographic factors that will influence first-time home buyers' preference for residential property in Kuala Lumpur? Third, would housing attributes influence first-time home buyers' preferences in Kuala Lumpur? And the aim of this study is to identify first-time home buyers' preference for residential property. In order to achieve the aim, there are 3 objectives. First is to identify the preference of first-time home buyers for residential property in Kuala Lumpur. Second is to identify the demographic factors that will influence first-time home buyers' preference for residential property in Kuala Lumpur. Third is to determine that housing attributes that will influence first-time home buyers' preferences in Kuala Lumpur. Next is the research methodology. Quantitative method is adopted in my research, which consists of 2 phases. Phase 1 is the literature review. The literature review are secondary sources from the findings, theories, and the contributions to specific topics. It carried out by collecting the secondary resources from newspapers, reports, technical reports, journals, books, guidelines, and the regulations. Phase 2 is the Questionnaires Survey. The aim of this survey is to analyze the demographic factors and the housing attributes that will influence first-time home buyers' preferences in Kuala Lumpur. The purpose of this survey is to generalize from a sample to a population so that inference can be made of this population. Finally, the data are analyzed with the aid of SPSS windows, which is statistical package for social science. This includes descriptive statistics and inference statistics. Next is the scope of research. This research is only carried out for academic purpose. The scope of this research is focused on the first-time home buyers' preference for residential property in Kuala Lumpur. This research solely covers Kuala Lumpur area. In addition, the respondents are limited to first-time home buyers whose age is between 24 and 34, which will be the target population. Hence, the significance of this research is the research will help housing developers to understand more about first-time home buyers and their preference on housing by providing clear factors affecting first-time home buyers' preference. Second, the research will assist housing developers of higher probability of success in the sales campaign, which are specifically designed for the specific group, which is the first-time home buyers. Last but not least, the research also provides an insight for the housing developers with a clear picture of first-time home buyers' preferences, which is useful as a guidance for developers to improve and keep up with their needs in Malaysia. And that's thank you.
Okay, thank you. Siapa tu?
BTS ke tu?
Bukan lah, ni mesti actor China ni. Jay Chou, tu Jay kenal.
Hi Luna.
Ya, I know.
Luna.
Hi, Doctor.
I just feel that the topic that you propose has been widely researched. So I don't know. It feels like the study that we have conducted previously. Maybe you need to find another scope code for your research.
Another scope.
Yes, Luna. Because it's very much similar to what we have done. So when doing research, you need to find something new, something which has not been researched previously.
Can you look into different perspective?
Maybe how much contact do you have with Chinese student in Malaysia?
Maybe 10.
Right. Maybe you can focus something on, I don't know, something simpler like exploring the experience of Chinese students finding homes in Malaysia. I think that's much more doable.
Okay.
So what would be the process and preferences when they probably just maybe Chinese expats in Malaysia? Maybe what would be the preferences when searching for homes in Malaysia? I think you can easily do that rather than doing potential first-time home buyer in Malaysia. It's going to be difficult, and yeah. Okay, Luna. Right.
Okay.
1 second.
I'll
Yeah.
think about it.
So my question with Dr. Ain'ni, I think find a different scope, but it's doable, don't worry. So you will have to discuss with your supervisor soon. Okay, Luna? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Okay, meeting ya. Okay, you can start.
Good afternoon to Dr. Surveyor Anoriza and Dr. Zafira and Dr. Zairo. I'm Chu Siu Ching, and the topic of my research proposal is Malaysia SMEs Food and Beverage Business Real Strategy during COVID-19 pandemic. Firstly, I'll introduce the background of my research. My research will focus on how the small and medium enterprise in food and beverage industry deal with the impacts of COVID-19 with real estate strategies. I'll first explain the definition of the important terms of my research. SME means the business that has turnover of less than 20 million ringgit Malaysia per annum and employ less than 75 full-time employees. Coronavirus disease COVID-19 is a highly infectious respiratory disease transmitted through respiratory secretions that causes serious health complications and even death. COVID-19 was declared pandemic in 11 March 2020. Till today, the global COVID-19 cases has exceeded 92.7 million, with more than 1.9 million deaths. COVID-19 has caused negative impact to almost all businesses and industry in the world, especially in the food and beverage businesses such as restaurants, which require premises for their business operations. For the research problem, it is mainly focused on COVID-19 pandemic impact on business, on real estate, and the limited research on effectiveness of real estate strategies. COVID-19-induced lockdown has affected almost all countries in the world in an attempt to contain and reduce transmission of the virus, which requires the government to impose strict movement control orders, such as MCO in Malaysia, to the people and imply social distancing. Business operations and mobility of people is restricted, and people prefer to stay at home to prevent infection. Disruption in production and supply chain is seen following investment and consumption decisions, which causes significant losses to businesses and subsequently negatively impacted the labour market. This has created problems for businesses, including the SME food and beverage businesses in Malaysia, as they have to overcome these challenges to continue to survive in the market. Secondly, COVID-19 pandemic affects the real estate industry in terms of reduced occupancy rates in hotels, negotiation in rental terms, rental relief, government-imposed capacity limitations in closed space, reduced property transactions, relocation to cheaper premises, and even business closed down, and so on due to the reduced demand and drop in revenue. This has created problems for the SME F&B businesses to find out what is the real estate strategies that is suitable to be applied during this period of uncertainty. Thirdly, there is limited research on the level of effectiveness of the real estate strategies as compared with business strategies. This research opens up a new research direction for future studies, as this research is specifically on the level of effectiveness of real estate strategies for Malaysia SME food and beverage businesses during crises like COVID-19. In conclusion, this research will give an exposure on how businesses cope during COVID-19 and what kind of real estate decisions are made in the food industry, as well as its effectiveness. Finding of this study is valuable for businesses to determine the most effective real estate strategies to be applied during COVID-19 pandemic or similar situations in the future. These are my research questions. What are the challenges faced by Malaysia SME F&B business during COVID-19? And the second question is, what are the real estate strategies applied by Malaysia SME F&B business during COVID-19? And the third question is, what is the level of effectiveness of the real estate strategies applied by Malaysia SME food and beverage business during COVID-19? The aim of my research is to explore the real estate strategy of Malaysia SME F&B business during COVID-19. And this is the objectives. The first objective is to identify the challenges faced by Malaysia SME F&B business during COVID-19. The second objective is to determine the real estate strategies used by Malaysia SME F&B business during COVID-19. And the last objective is to identify the level of effectiveness of the real estate strategies applied by the Malaysian SME F&B business during COVID-19. The research methodology is using quantitative approach as it is more objective and scientific to analyze data. Both primary and secondary data are obtained for this research. The research questionnaire survey is used to identify the challenges faced by the targeted population, which are the SMEs in the F&B industry in Malaysia, and determining the strategies they use during the COVID-19 period. This survey is designed to identify the implications of COVID-19 towards the businesses and the businesses' real estate strategies to overcome the challenges. A pilot test will be done before data collection begins. Then the data collected are analyzed with the aid of SPSS windows. These include the descriptive statistics and inference statistics. The descriptive statistics analysis methods used are mode, mean, and median, and the inference statistics analysis used is relationship between variables. The significance of the research can be seen in helping the businesses to identify the challenges faced during COVID-19, especially in the food and beverage industry. This research will also assist the business to identifying real estate strategies suitable to be applied during COVID-19. And this research will assist the businesses to make better real estate decisions. This research also provides business with insights to mitigate risks to overcome future uncertainties. And lastly, this research focuses on real estate strategies for food and beverage businesses, which is very specific and can be generalized towards a bigger population, such as food industry in general, but to an extent with discrepancy. And finally, this is the thesis structure and the milestone and duration. The total duration will be 28 weeks, and here is the Gantt chart. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Dr. Zairul, Dr. Zafira.
Okay, I think nampak okay, tak ada apa ni in term of your direction tu nampak dah clear dah apa you nak buat. Zaz punya ni off, mute. Zaz, you're mute.
Ada komen. Everything.
Ada komen kan?
Yeah. Just in terms of restructuring the research objectives je lah kot.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Alright, so well done everybody. Oh, saya nak minta try you all on your webcam. Nak test. Boleh? Semua orang?
Dr. Ain'ni.
Ya.
My camera cannot on.
Kenapa you? Siapa tu?
Brian. Your Kayun just now yang tak dapat share screen tu.
Oh.
Ada masalah dekat Microsoft Teams.
Okay, Microsoft Teams yang problem. Alright. Okay, yang lain? Yang lain okay tak? Susan? Yang lain okay? Lain? Yang lain ada? Alia okay? Amira pun tak ada problem ya?
Dah buka tapi tak nampak kan?
Tak ada.
Amira tak nampak. Okay, tak apalah. Maybe for exam kita tak guna Teams lah kot. Sekejap. Yang lain? Yang lain okay? Syahira, Faz, Alia, Saliza, Wani. You all tahu you all boleh pakai virtual background kan? Aduh, ya God. Okay.
Only a few lah yang tak boleh.
Ada yang tak boleh buka Syahira, apa saya ingat Syahira? Pakai telefon
Tadi saya
tak boleh pakai telefon, boleh kot. Telefon boleh rasanya. Kan? Right. Okay, tak apa. Tak apalah kalau tak boleh Microsoft Teams. Maybe kita pakai ni lah kot, pakai Google Meet lah kot for exam. Alright, okay. So well done everybody. I think you understand lah kot the basic of doing a proposal, right? Okay. So kena ada refinement and further reading and lots of reading. Alright, okay. So stay safe everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good afternoon. Bye. Ada orang ada cantik gambar ni. Jarang-jarang ada muka semua orang.
Thank you. Well done. Jangan gerak. Don't move. Okay, bye.
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 Bye.